LL Nation, what's good? Lucky Lefty Podcast. I'm your guy, Shaun Davis at SD2 Mics. Malik is just getting off a call, so he'll be with us shortly. We are brought to you by Onora Whiskey. Go to OnoraWhiskey.com. It's that premium American whiskey, OnoraWhiskey.com. We've had a fantastic week of conversations. Great guests this week. Go back to all of our previous podcasts. You can check out shows with former Notre Dame shooting guard Rex Pfluger. And then also, yesterday, we had a fantastic show. Former Notre Dame quarterback Brandon Wimbush gave us about an hour and 15 minutes of in-depth conversation about the Notre Dame program and the narrative around the quarterback room at Notre Dame, going all the way back to Tommy Rees up until his time with Ian Book. It's a fantastic conversation, lots of insight. Go check that out. As always, smash the like button. Smash the like button. Share. Let everybody know about the Lucky Lefty Podcast. We spin it different. So, no different than today. We're going to put the link for the studio in the chat probably about 45 minutes from now. It's all about you guys. It's for the Culture Friday. So we're going to invite our fans and our listeners to come jump into the show. Any question you want to ask, nothing's off limits. It's Friday. You guys will get to control the show for the last 10 to 15 minutes. We appreciate you. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get to our special guest today, someone that I have a connection with. I don't know. I'm so excited to see if he remembers how far we go back, but none other than 247 Sports own Steve Wiltfong. He joins us right now on the Lucky Lefty Podcast. Steve, how are you doing?
What's up, Shaun? I remember sitting in the studio with you in Chicago many, many years ago.
Yeah.
Had more hair.
Yeah.
We're swole.
Yeah, absolutely. Things have changed.
Doing well.
I actually have a kid in college now. Time moves on. And congratulations to you. How have you been doing?
No, everything's well. No complaints here, man. Just trying to keep up with recruiting, same as I always have.
Yeah. So for our listeners,
Groundhog's Day in this life, brother.
I hear you. I hear you. For our listeners, Steve and I. Steve was actually the first individual that invited me to come watch a high school football game with him when he was Midwest recruiting for 247 Sports. And we went to Soldier Field, and it was a doubleheader. It was Providence Catholic against Morgan Park and Simeon against Mount Carmel. And I'll never forget that day. It was a fantastic time. And that's when I really started to get my itch for recruiting and high school football and college football. And as you said before, he used to come on the Jared Payton show and come in the studio with us as well back in the days on State Street, downtown Chicago. So, Steve, we're going to talk about Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman and everything, but I want to get into your time covering these high school recruits. What has changed since you first started? Have the recruits changed or have things around them changed?
Well, I think the thing that's changed more than anything is the level of interest in recruiting. You know, when I first started covering recruiting, 17, 18 years ago, it was still more of a niche market, even like Rivals and Scout.com weren't mainstream or whatever, and now these blue chippers are getting media attention from all over the place. And so there's a lot more people doing it, and there's a lot more eyes on these young men before they get to college nationally.
So when you talk about that, there are a lot of fans out there that question the entire ranking system and how these guys are ranked. Matt Painter said something very interesting the other day, and he basically said, he's speaking from a basketball standpoint. He said everybody knows who the best 20 guys in the country are. Like, doesn't take a genius to know those guys. He said, but once you get past 20, as a coach, now you have to do your due diligence to go out and find out what type of heart a kid has. And, ultimately, because the kid can only be as good as his coach thinks he can be. in his system and at that particular program. Do you agree with that assessment, or do you feel like it goes a little bit deeper than that when it comes to assessing high school juniors and seniors?
Well, football, there's more prospects. There's bigger rosters on the football side, collegiately compared to basketball. And with basketball, the AAU circuit allows those coaches to get out on the road and see the best versus the best within a game that's going to resemble the college game. And what I mean by that is, in football recruiting 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you didn't see a lot of best on best other than maybe an all-star game setting, and you would see guys in camps and combines, but it wasn't real football. But now you're seeing, St. John Bosco play against Cincinnati St. Xavier, or, Miami Columbus going out to California or Las Vegas and playing Bishop Gorman. So there's a lot more showcase camps and things to make it easier to identify prospects and stack up the best versus the best. But with basketball, it's probably a little easier to identify, or it's always been a little easier to identify the no-brainers, right? Because of the AAU circuit and getting in those gyms and playing basketball on the same size court, on the same size hoop, obviously. With football, your program could be completely different than another team's program. Your offense could be different, the way you play defense. So you may be recruiting slightly different than your peers based on what your scheme is on both sides of the ball. So certainly, I always point to Alabama. People are like, Alabama, it's so easy to recruit at Alabama. They can get whoever they want. They absolutely can they can get darn near who they want. So the problem with that is that, their consistency their consistency on the field is a credit to the way that they identify players and develop them, because they turn away good players.
Yeah.
They make hard decisions on guys. And, you're, as a college football coach, no matter what program you are, you're looking for guys that fit what you do schematically and then fit what you do culturally. And just because a guy's a good player doesn't mean he checks either of those boxes. So I think Coach Painter's correct that, the teams that are the most successful are the ones that are the best at identifying what they're looking for in their position rooms, for their offense or for their defense, and then just their personality and how it's going to fit in their culture. And certainly from there, you got to develop and coach them up and put them in the right spots on Saturdays, which is, all of that's hard to do. Every bit of that is extremely hard to do. You can recruit a great class, but you might suck at developing them or scheming them right. So at Alabama, they've certainly proven that they're good at building you up and putting you in the right places to be successful. And if you're committed to their program, there's a good chance that you're going to come out the other side a draft pick.
So I think there was a stat right before the national championship game that Georgia and Alabama, I think respectively, had 21 and 19 5-stars on their current roster.
So recruiting matters.
And I was like, yeah, for people that say recruiting doesn't matter.
Recruiting rankings, excuse me.
Exactly. So for me, I looked at that and I said, look, hopefully there are some smart coaches at other programs that might be on the second tier or the third tier as far as their programs right now, that are not trying to get the same numbers, but rather maybe trying to get to that 7, 8, 9, and maybe make sure that they get 2 or 3 more difference makers to try and close the gap. Because at this point, the way Nick Saban is going, I don't see anything stopping him other than retirement from a recruiting standpoint.
Well, if you look at Georgia, I mean, in 2016, which really isn't that long ago, they won 8 football games. That was Kirby Smart's first year, replacing Mark Richt, who, won 10 games 2 years prior. In 8 years, the 3 years before that. That's not the standard for Georgia football that they wanted to live by. They wanted to be a championship program. And, The hardest thing to do in college football is to trim those final strokes and go from 10, 11 wins to 13 and 14 and win the national championship. But Kirby Smart obviously elevated that program to that realm with the way he recruits, with the way they identify athletes, the way they develop and coach and scheme and play on Saturdays. But it starts with recruiting. They don't take any days off. They have a ton of they get prospects on campus numerous times. The head coach is always available. He's always building a rapport with these guys. It's the assistants. It's expected of them to be good recruiters. And with that, you saw Georgia go from a team that was shooting 70, 69 on the course to now they can go out and get 65, 64, 65, 66 and win the tournament. And it's not easy to get from, it's easy to go from 80 to 70, but it's hard to go from 10, 11 wins to 13, 14. That's, there's only a few programs capable of that year in and year out.
So basically you equate them to going from playing par golf to
playing better than par golf.
I'm saying they went from par golf, a little bit better than par golf under Mark Richt, but then
under Mark Richt, they were a top 15 program, but they were not in the top 5.
There you go. That's well taken, point taken, and
they were good. They had NFL players. They could win a lot of their games.
Yeah,
they weren't a legit championship contender. They didn't have the extra. They didn't have the extra players.
Yeah.
And I think that recruiting, if you're a team that's recruiting at a championship level, you're probably getting 2 to 4 more difference makers than the schools that aren't each cycle.
Mm.
And then you add that up over 4 cycles, be anywhere from 16 to 20 players on your roster. That's a lot of depth. It's a lot of talent.
Yeah, that's simply put. So now that I think about it, they say the short game is what wins championships on the golf course, right? Most people want to stand on the tee and hit the ball 300 yards, and then they get the ball up there and they go back and forth across the green, and next thing you know, they have 5 extra strokes on their scorecard. And you always can't get within 3 feet to the hole, right? So recruiting seems like those programs that can consistently make the 10-footer, to get birdies and stack up a better score, trying to go back to what you previously said, those 2 to 4 guys every cycle, the programs that can consistently do that, those are the teams that end up being those top 5 programs that you're speaking of.
The programs that consistently identify difference makers, the programs that do a good job of maintaining a certain level of depth across the board, and then beyond that, good strength and conditioning, player development, coaching, certainly are all big factors too. But it starts with recruiting. You look at Alabama, Nick Saban, he's involved in the evaluation process of all the kids they take. I mean, I don't think there's a college head coach that watches more film than Nick Saban. Now, he might not be on the phone as much as Kirby Smart or Lincoln Riley or Ryan Day or some of those guys that are considered the 9-inning guys, but he's 9-inning guy in his own way, and I'm not saying that those other guys aren't watching a lot of film either. I'm just saying, like, there's different approaches that work that make you a national title contender. But the one thing that's consistent with those head coaches is the amount of attention that they put on recruiting in their own way.
Yeah, because right after the national championship game at the press conference, Kirby Smart is immediately talking about he has to get on a helicopter the next day and go recruit.
And and his defensive coordinator, Dan Lanning, he's on the phone hitting up top targets for Oregon to close out that process. He's still wearing a Georgia polo shirt. The confetti's coming down, and Dan Lanning's talking to Oregon targets because he's going to capitalize on that momentum.
Yeah.
And it worked. They landed this top 100 corner, Jaleel Florence. They beat USC out for him and got him in the fold. Dan Lanning's on the phone with him inside Lucas Oil Stadium. It's 3 hours earlier in California. He's talking to him, getting it done. And Dan Lanning was a big part of helping Georgia, build into a national title contender. And he's not going to cheat the process at Oregon. Neither did Mario Cristobal, obviously, with the 3 top 10 classes. We'll see if Oregon under this new regime under Coach Dan Lanning, can scheme their way into a couple more wins here.
What are your thoughts? I know we love to be entertained on Saturday afternoons by all of these great athletes, but at the end of the day, we all hope that they get an education and can build a foundation for the rest of their life, even after their playing days. The volatility of recruiting and including the transfer portal now, the volatility of roster movement, is it the best thing for college athletics right now, or do you think there should be some changes made?
Well, I don't know, if all these rule changes are always put in place, and the people that like make the decisions, are the athletic directors, and ultimately they're talking to their coaches, and all these rule changes benefit the haves, you know, and because it's well thought out by the haves.
Yeah,
So, um, but with it doesn't always necessarily benefit the student athlete, even though on the surface it seems like it does. You know, but what I would say is that I think that kids that come into college to play sports, they have the upper hand in life to be upper middle class over the average student that comes in if they do it right.
yeah,
If they come into the school and they're able to, you know, be a good person, network with some people, put themselves in position to fall back on something if football, if they don't make it to Sunday, people want to hire athletes,
yeah,
particularly former football players and basketball players that are, high profile. Those and oftentimes athletes bring great confidence, great teamwork into whatever your business is, and dedicated people. It takes a lot of hard work to be a Division I athlete. So you channel that competitive nature into something else. It tends to work out. But unfortunately, Shaun, there's sometimes schools that don't give these young men good academic support.
mm,
So they're not coming out the other side with the degree.
yeah,
And they're not doing a good job of networking on campus and building relationships that are going to allow them to make six figures easily, regardless of if they make it to being a professional athlete or not. And so I think that that's something that goes under the radar a little bit when kids are looking at schools. It's, I'm going to go to a place that's developed this many, developed this guy or played for this. An overlooked piece of data sometimes is the graduation rate, and particularly the minority graduation rate. And so I think that those are things that people could consider more, because again, I think that you're going into these colleges, you kind of have the world by the balls. Now different young men come from different situations, but you have a chance when you go to one of these schools to rewrite your fortunes
yeah.
if
I
you need
totally,
to, or
totally
you
agree
can
with you.
maintain them.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Steve Wiltfong, 247 Sports, right here on the Lucky Lefty podcast. I'm Shaun Davis at SD2 Mics. Subscribe, share, and like. More than anything, smash that like button. Steve, in your travels, thank you. We appreciate it. In your travels, who were the three guys that you immediately saw and said, "Oh my God, he's a dude"?
Oh man, my recall is not as good as some of my peers. Obviously, Jadeveon Clowney in high school was a different kind of person. I mean, he was unbelievable. Um, even like Terrell Pryor was such a dominant player out of Jeanette, Pennsylvania. I remember seeing
Yeah,
him at the All-America Bowl, and he was just on another level. I mean, he obviously went to Ohio State and was a really good college quarterback, played receiver in the NFL. He could have been a great edge rusher. He could have been anything he wanted. I mean, he was just so unique. So Terrell Pryor comes to mind. Uh, um, Man, I don't know. My 4-year-old keeps turning the light on and off over there too. But there's just been so many great players. Trevor Lawrence was as good a high school quarterback that I saw, with his ability to within his system at his high school and just know where to always go with the football accurately and consistently. I mean, he was such a dominant player on the high school level.
What was your evaluation in that cycle between him and Justin Fields coming from the same state?
Well, they both were obviously ranked extremely high. I think at that time you looked at Justin Fields and you're like, this guy could be the next Deshaun Watson, with his ability to be a game breaker with his legs. I mean, Justin Fields ran like 4.5 on the laser 40-yard dash. That's spring at an opening regional, and you're like, man. I mean, so and then he was terrific in those camps going into senior year. And obviously was a great prospect, went to Ohio State, led him to the national title game and got drafted in the first round. When you were kind of splitting hairs on them, Trevor Lawrence's body of work over the course of 4 years, Justin didn't even start till I know he replaced Lorenzo Nunez, who went to South Carolina and ultimately changed positions at South Carolina. So Justin was a later starter, but he's a freak athlete, freak athletic ability, and tremendous competitor. But Trevor just, when you're splitting hairs on some of these elite guys, I mean, just, always had a high completion percentage, always threw touchdowns, rarely turned the ball over, won a couple state titles, and then obviously he was ready to go at Clemson to lead them to the promised land. I mean, that's hard for a true freshman to do what he did. You don't see that too often. You see true freshmen play and make an impact. Trevor Lawrence played as a true freshman and took them, helped them get all the way to the national title game, and so he was pretty unique for the quarterback position. I'll tell you, he was I haven't seen a running back that is gifted as the one that Ohio State has right now than Travion Henderson. And he didn't play his senior year because of COVID, but his junior year was unbelievable. And he could have been a 5-star safety, and schools originally were recruiting him as a defensive back, but elite speed, and then all the intangibles for Travion Henderson too, besides his size and speed and ability. He's a straight A student, he's got everything in a row there, and he's a special player, and I would imagine he'll be on some Heisman lists this year alongside his quarterback CJ Stroud.
Yo, Notre Dame fans are not looking forward to facing that duo first week in the 2022 season.
Ohio State's loaded, man. It's more than that too.
They really are. And Steve, I go back to that Rose Bowl game. We got through watching the Notre Dame game, and I turned over to the Rose Bowl, and I'm saying to myself, like, wow, this game is just strange. I can't believe Ohio State is this flat, and then all of a sudden it's almost like they had this switch, and they just hit it, and there was nothing Utah could do,
Well, they got to get some things in order on defense there in Columbus, and they made some coaching changes there.
Yeah.
But their kids on defense in that game rallied after a dismal first half performance. And then their offense, I mean, it's, they have maybe receiver 1 and receiver 2 in this year's draft. They eventually have RB1 in the draft. They may have eventual QB1 in the draft.
Yeah.
They got some pros on the O-line, pros in the tight end room. I mean, that's high octane. They got future first-round receivers coming up the pipeline here. It's well-oiled there. And so, for Ohio State, you're excited to get Coach Knowles in there from Oklahoma State and see if he can get you playing more consistent on defense against the better teams on your schedule, because obviously they didn't have any answers against Michigan. Michigan really lit them up on the perimeter, and Ohio State's athletic. They just, schematically weren't prepared to stop a Michigan team that was, it was their day.
Yeah, I think Jim Knowles definitely showed in the Fiesta Bowl that he can always make adjustments, in-game adjustments. He did that against Notre Dame, and Notre Dame was never able to recover. Hopefully, Ohio State gets that, and like you said, they're able to put up a better fight against Michigan. But I want to move over to Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, Brian Kelly, his tenure at Notre Dame, very successful. Very successful. A lot of people are upset with, performances in big games and things of that nature. But what the program was when he took over and the condition he left it in, the fan base has to be appreciative and happy with where they are now, where Marcus Freeman takes over. My question to you is, what was the narrative nationally or even regionally about Notre Dame when Brian Kelly took over in comparison to what you're hearing now?
Well, I think when Brian Kelly got hired from Cincinnati, everyone deemed it a home run hire. You know what I mean? And then I think in this first game, they lost to South Florida during a lightning delay, if I remember correctly. And they went 8-5 his first year, or they went 8-5 his first 2 years at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But he recruited some good classes, and they were in the BCS title game his third year. Then I think he kind of lost his edge for a few years. 4-8 was a wake up call, and he showed what kind of competitor he was, because he could have. I mean, he could have retired theoretically. You know, like finished out the string, got fired after the next year, and gone into TV. You know, and had a great life. But I mean, he made some tough coaching decisions. The strength coach was a close friend of his. Moved him. Got rid of his OC. Got rid of his DC.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that the OC thing was necessary, but certainly on defense it was. And they go 10-3, 12-1, 11-2, 10-2, 11-2, or something like that. And playing 2 title games, playing 2 college football playoffs, playing 2 more New Year's Six bowls. I think that's a hell of a run. But back to what we talked about earlier, they're shooting 68, 67, but it's hard to trim another stroke or two when you're that good. It's extremely hard. And I don't know, I'm nitpicking from the spot of Notre Dame was really good. And I actually think that they were even lining up to be better under Brian Kelly. I think his best years were even potentially ahead of him at Notre Dame, the way that they were really starting to recruit and some of the hires he made on his staff. So his story could have continued, but based on what we know and looking at it in hindsight, I think Coach Kelly left a player or two out there a year, because I don't think he went as hard on the trail as a couple other guys. And that adds up to 4 to 8 players on your roster over 4 years. And maybe maybe they have a little more speed at wideout when they're in the playoff a couple years ago. And that was a deficient room, when they lost to Clemson the second time. I mean, it's I think that Brian Kelly proved he could get championship level players in every room at Notre Dame. It just, it never lined up at the same time for them to go out there and win that semifinal or win that title game. But they were certainly, under Brian Kelly, a bona fide top 10 team, and maybe and maybe like in the number 5 slot or 4 slot, but I don't know if they were ever like a real potential title winner.
What are your thoughts about? We had Brandon Wimbush on the show yesterday. He gave his thoughts. But what are your thoughts about the quarterback room at Notre Dame? There have been a lot of flash in the pants where you see kids, they look good, you think they're going to take the next step, and then the word regression comes into the conversation under Brian Kelly. And is that a part of the kids that they're recruiting, or was it more to it with, multiple offensive coordinators and maybe not being as aggressive or as forward thinking offensively and as innovative maybe as they should have been? What are your thoughts on that?
So again, nitpicking, because they obviously had a lot of success. And we're talking from the vantage point of why didn't they win a national title for the first time since 1988?
Right.
Because they had a lot of success. So keeping that in mind, I think that Notre Dame could recruit the quarterback position better compared to the way they've recruited other rooms. They haven't, every other room they've had guys that have heard their names called early in the draft, guys that were All-American caliber players, guys that were difference makers. But at quarterback, it's been tough sledding. They haven't really been in the mix for a guy Deshaun Kaiser was a good recruiting win, and so was Brandon Wimbush. But you look at the roster now, even Tyler Buckner was a guy that they committed to early and committed. Who knows what his process would have been? But when Notre Dame committed him, he hadn't even played a varsity. He had played just one varsity game and got hurt, or I'm misremembering it. And so Notre Dame, the Pine kid, Brandon or the Brendan, he's at Old Dominion now.
He transferred. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brendan Clark.
This is Notre Dame, man. I mean,
Yeah.
like these are, like we should, if you're Notre Dame, it's like we should be getting the guys, like we should be, not saying every year, but we should beat Clemson and Alabama for a quarterback one year, or like this is, we're playing in important games over here too. So I think that, I mean, you look at that team that won 10 games the year after, 4-8.
Right.
That offense was loaded.
Yeah.
I mean, that team was built to, I know they were coming off 4-8. That offense had, so many pros on it. The McGlinchey and Quentin Nelson and Bars and I know I'm forgetting some guys with the wideout room. You had St. Brown, Boykin, and Claypool was in there. The tight end room's always loaded. Running back room, you had Dexter and you had Theo. Or no, you didn't have Theo. Theo was on the first title game, but you had Dexter and you had Josh Adams, who played meaningful downs in the NFL, and
young Tony Jones. Yeah.
So I mean, like they had enough talent, but you look at it was a brand new offensive coordinator that never been a play caller before, that's learning on the job at a place like Notre Dame, and you're telling me an offense that loaded can't score more points against Georgia in that home game loss at night? I mean, that was just having a young coach out there that just didn't get didn't scheme it up right, in my opinion. Based on what he had in his deck.
Right.
Because that deck was stacked, and I think, was Wimbush the starter in that game or
yeah, Wimbush was the starter in that game.
Yeah.
They had the lead in the fourth quarter. Georgia took the lead, and then
they had the lead in the fourth quarter, but that, they weren't scoring points.
Right.
It was in the teens.
Yeah.
Big Fromm starting his first game for Georgia, if I remember correctly. So
he was.
I mean, so Notre Dame, I love their approach at quarterback recruiting this cycle, because here's Coach Reese, who did not quarterback recruiting, in my opinion. You look at the last cycle, and they signed Angeli, and that was a guy that they offered early. But I think that Drew Aller's like the guy that you would want, right? And they offered him late, and I think that they had him on the radar, though, and they just didn't go for whatever the reason. I think that Coach Reese is a self-aware man. They got like 6 or 7 offers out to quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily recruiting them all anymore, but it's like, hey, you got some promise. We're offering, we're in the game early. And then eventually we make some tough decisions down the road. And this is who we're zeroed in on now. It's because we're Notre Dame. We can do that.
Yeah.
It's and so I think the way Notre Dame's recruiting the quarterback position this cycle is as good as I've seen them recruit it in a long time. And I think it's because of the approach and the balls to say, like Notre Dame offering Ty Simpson late last year, not saying they would have got him. He went to Alabama, but it's like, Ty Simpson, everybody knew he was good for a long time, so I think this time around, Notre Dame's in the game on everybody good early. And they have a big leg to stand on with what they've done, with what that program can do for NIL. And now they're in the mix. They're square. Notre Dame is squarely near the top of the list for 2 of the elite guys in the country, Dante Moore and Christopher Vizina. And they were for Jackson Arnold, who's committed to Oklahoma. Now, you're not going to get them all, but that's what I just said there is way better than anything that happened in the cycle prior. And that's because I think that Notre Dame has adjusted their approach. And so they didn't get Jackson Arnold, but they were way in it. I think they have a great shot to get Dante Moore. And with that, I don't, Vizina, Vizina probably goes elsewhere, but they're like right there with him if they're not in a great spot for Dante Moore, in my opinion. And that's awesome. And they already have the number one class in the country on 24/7 Sports without a quarterback in the fold yet. So that's incredible as well.
I hope Notre Dame fans are encouraged by that because, Steve, I've been telling them to just relax, let it play out when it comes to the quarterbacks. I've been telling them from all of the prospects I've talked to, especially on the offensive side of the ball, you just mentioned it. Tommy Rees has done a fantastic job establishing relationships with the top guys. You get a guy like Harry Heastand, who comes in and he immediately makes an impact. I know Charles Jagasaw loves him. I've had a couple of conversations with him. He loves Harry Heastand. Talk about the staff, because you pointed out your staff, and that's one of the things that Kirby Smart changed. Everybody on the staff had to be great at recruiting. It seems like Marcus Freeman has done the same thing in establishing or building the staff he has right now. What are your thoughts on the staff that he's built, and how do you think it plays out over the long run? Because I use this analogy. For a long time, Dabo, Kirby, and Nick were the only ones at the big boy table, at the poker table. They're the only ones. Everybody was outside at the smaller tables. And it seems like Marcus Freeman just dared to go take a seat at the big boy table and was willing to buy in. Whatever the buy-in was, he was willing to make the buy-in and sit next to those guys on the recruiting trail.
Well, I think when Coach Freeman first got to Notre Dame, he was like, we're going to recruit the best defensive players in the country. We don't care who they are, where they're from, or who they're looking at.
Yeah.
We have something that we can offer them that should make them interested in Notre Dame. Like Coach Freeman genuinely believes in what Notre Dame brings to a young man. And Tyson Ford's an All-American Bowl participant who, when Marcus Freeman got the job, that Tyson Ford was basically a silent commit to Oklahoma and was going to announce his decision to the Sooners. 2 conversations later with Marcus Freeman, he's playing for the Irish and part of a key top 10 class that they had this cycle. So that's the mentality that he brings to the trail. Now, let me go real quick. Brian Kelly, they recruited good players under Brian Kelly, obviously. They were a team that was damn good. They had a lot of pros. They knew how to develop players. They have a great Notre Dame strength and conditioning is off the charts. They scheme you up and put you in a good place to be successful. He's had good coaches under him. And Brian Kelly in the living room is second to none. I mean, that is a guy that could really be eloquent in his message to recruits and why Notre Dame was the right place. And Brian Kelly's actually is a good dude. Like, when you're around him, he's a fun guy. He's not this stiff, straight, he's not what he's perceived to be. He can be laid back and people like him. It's just he didn't instinctually attack the recruiting trail like Coach Freeman is. And so Coach Freeman doesn't need to be asked to do anything regarding recruiting. It's in his nature. He wants to be part of it. And so with that, that's going to set the tone for the rest of the staff on the trail. So we know that Notre Dame is going to recruit at a high level under Coach Freeman. The question mark with Coach Freeman is now going to be on Saturdays. Like, we knew Notre Dame was going to be generally prepared to play every Saturday under Brian Kelly. They were going to have a good game plan. They were going to have good players, and almost every Saturday they were going to have a good chance to win. Under Coach Freeman, we know that he's going to recruit his ass off, and he is qualified for this job that he got. Like, it was his time to get it. But we, now we'll see. We'll see how he responds to that moving forward. That's obviously an unknown. Him making sure, they're on message every day, and, that the program's doing what it's supposed to do to, compete with Ohio State in the opener and beyond.
One of the coolest things I saw when I went down to South Bend for the coaches' breakout sessions that they had about 3 weeks ago, Al Washington was the last coach, and he was surrounded by the media. And everybody was laughing and asking him questions. And I look over in the corner, and it's Chris O'Leary, Mike Mickens, and Marcus Freeman. And someone asked another question, and Marcus Freeman says, "Hey, we got defensive linemen to recruit. Let's go. And the media starts laughing, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, I kind of think he's serious right now. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he wants you guys to have access, but he's ready to go because every moment and every question he feels like is one less phone call that needs to be made to the best recruits on that D line. So for me, that was like an inside look to the mentality he has. Like, all right, look, it's time to go. We have work to do. And I told Notre Dame fans that was something that made me very happy about the direction of his staff and him leading the way. He's always said that he wants to be the lead recruiter and the best recruiter on the staff.
Well, one thing that Luke Fickell said when I went and visited him early in the Cincinnati tenure that has stayed with me is any staff that he's ever been on, the head coach has been the best recruiter in their own way. Coach Tressel, Coach Meyer. So that's what he wants to be at Cincinnati. And obviously we all heard Coach Freeman say he wants to be the lead recruiter on everybody. I mean, that's not, I mean, I don't know how realistic that is, but all he has to do is be a presence and have a genuine relationship with each top target. You know, he's still, those assistants and the off-field staff are still getting paid to do their job also. And,
right.
You know, and again, I think the tone is set with Coach Freeman at the top, and he's going to be involved recruiting everybody from Dante Moore in the quarterback room to whoever their top remaining target is in the DB room, Christian Gray or Malik Muhammad or whoever it is. So again, Notre Dame's effort on the trail is as high as I've ever seen it. And I've been around that program for a long time, you know, but we'll see what this staff can do when the NBC lights are shining on them on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm excited about this group, and I'm excited about Coach Freeman and his opportunity to, you know, go to Notre Dame and really, you know, he's got a chance to do something special, you know, and be really remembered for all time. That's the kind of job you get at Notre Dame, and the stakes that are in the mix.
Steve Wiltfong from 24/7 Sports joins us right here on the Lucky Lefty podcast. Steve, what do you remember about the recruitment of this dude right here?
You know, what's up, Malik? How you doing?
What's up, baby? It's been so long.
I know, man. I remember back in the day, you would have to tell us you got offers, you know. So
yeah. Oh, man. That's when the real work was put into recruiting. You know, social media has made it easy. Like, your job was a lot easier then.
Yeah. You know, I just for the kicks, I typed my Twitter handle and your name in on search right before I went on the show, and I reported your Alabama offer. I talked to you after you committed to Notre Dame. I talked to you after an Ohio State visit. There were just some, you know, top 100 quarterback Malik Zaire is looking at Ohio State differently following today's visit. You know,
see, that's real gems. That's how you know we go back way, way, way in the beginning.
Malik Zaire is excited about his offer from Notre Dame. Talks Irish here, February 20th, 2012. You know, Arizona offered a couple of days after that, you know, and you didn't take long to commit to Notre Dame, though, a little over a month. And, you know, had that story, and you know, I think, and then you move on to the next recruit in my job, you know.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I mean, you were just one after another after that, and then you took off. But I know recruiting, like we talked about, was different then than now. But with this NIL, have you seen it change just your impact on even writing stories? Because if you think about it, like, you damn near can't even write a solid recruiting story without adding an NIL piece to it.
Well, the funny thing about NIL is that, like, the recruiting rankings can dictate a young man's worth sometimes, but it may not be accurate to who the best player, like Saquon Barkley, we had ranked like number 88. You know what I'm saying? Like, which was a good ranking, like top 100. We think you're awesome, but dude was the best, most marketable player in college football, you know, by the time he got done. So the NIL money, who knows who it would have went to that cycle, but I bet Saquon Barkley's NIL money wouldn't have been right. You know, so it's just kind of interesting to me. Like I was having this conversation with an offensive coordinator, a high-profile offensive coordinator earlier. That's like, you got a quarterback out there getting an NIL deal. He's in high school, and an NIL deal is getting put together for, you know, over $1 million for this young man to go to your school. Now, what if you're already on the roster, or you're even in the recruiting class before and you didn't get an NIL deal?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm packing my stuff up. Like, I'm not playing. Like
No.
this guy, like what? So there's just so many interesting. Like, I could take this conversation a million different ways, but it's like, you know, the quarterbacks on your team aren't getting $1 million in NIL.
No.
You know, and so, well, maybe like a couple of them are about to, like CJ Stroud. I don't know what his worth's going to be. You know, I think he's got a chance to be QB1 in the draft down the road. So, good kid that I would think is extremely marketable with his personality and stuff. You know, but it's just, I'm waiting for the NIL market to kind of correct itself a little bit, and it feeds into the college players a little more than the high school players.
Yeah.
But right now, everybody's just going crazy because it's out there and it's available, and people are looking to make their investments. But it's like, you know, we ranked Quinn Ewers the number 1 player in the country at 24/7 Sports. If he was the number 8 player instead of number 1, which is still an elite ranking, would he have gotten those NIL deals to go to Ohio State and all of that? And you know, I'm not saying he would or wouldn't. I'm just,
But that matters. That matters a lot.
I think it is relevant to, you know, NIL and recruiting rankings. You know, your potential.
I mean, it's changed. It's changed with, especially look at a guy like Bryce Young. And the fact that he was getting the $1 million NIL deals before taking a snap, and now
he at least was at Bama and showed promise.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, and he's, you know, he's a very marketable athlete that's doing it on the biggest stage. And so even if like you bring it, even if Ty Simpson, their true freshman quarterback, got an NIL package put together for $1 million, at least the guy in the program's already at $1 million too. You know? Like,
it's a valuable QB room
or whatever Bryce is. You're seeing NIL packages for kids that haven't made a play on Saturday. And they're getting more than the young men that are already in the program that got the name in the paper for doing something and helping you win a game.
Yeah.
I'm not a hater. Like, I want everybody to get it.
It's hard not to be a hater, but you got to be a hater.
Well, I'm excited for these kids getting their NIL deals too. I just think it's how's it going to impact the culture of your program and things? Because, again, I would think that the guys that are really deserving the big bucks are the ones that are starring on Saturday.
Yeah.
And, you know, the players that there should be NIL for, if I'm watching ABC and it's like the night game is Alabama and Georgia, and you got Bryce Young's picture, you got Stetson Bennett's picture, they're promoting that game for you.
Yeah.
You know, there needs to be some kind of collective bargaining agreement where these players are getting paid to, you're blasting me on every commercial. Here I am. Watch Alabama tonight. Bryce Young fist pump, as you know,
that's got to get paid for now.
You know, you're promoting the game through Bryce Young. Like, there should be, that's where I think like the money should be coming. Like NIL, like, that's how I view the real NIL is like the players. Your team is part of a conference that's plays all their home games or plays the majority of their games on ESPN. So there you're getting money. ESPN is funneling some of that, or the conference is funneling some of that profit to the players.
Yeah,
the Big 12 or whoever. Not ESPN.
I mean, NBC could do an exclusive deal with Notre Dame.
The money to the conference to have the rights.
Yeah.
So that money, the conference distributes that money to the schools. The players should get some sort of cut of, you know, I'm not saying they should get the big, there's people that are orchestrating the deals that should get, they're the one, you know what I'm saying? But the players, and particularly the high profile ones promoting the game for you, should get a little cut.
Something.
Well, Steve, we thank you so much for giving us a piece of your time on this busy Friday afternoon. Go follow Steve Wiltfong at SWiltfong247. Steve Wiltfong for 24/7 Sports. Thanks for joining the Lucky Lefty.
Malik, what an awesome open concept you got behind you there at your house, man. I want to come over there and drink a bourbon.
Yeah, please come get some Onora and play the piano with me back here, and we got to have a good time.
Yeah, man. Well, good to see you doing well, Shaun. Great to reconnect with you guys. Thanks for having me on, man. It was fun talking about this stuff, and y'all take care and, have a good one and a good weekend.
You too. Same to you. That's Steve Wiltfong, 24/7 Sports right here on the Lucky Lefty podcast. Great information. Confirmed what you've been saying since December.
Yep.
That Notre Dame is in great position.
Great position.
For Dante Moore. He also talked about Notre Dame not doing a good job recruiting the quarterback position for years. And he talked about a problem with development in the quarterback room.
Yeah.
He said, in his opinion, the 2017 team, I wish you had been on when he said this, the 2017 team was talented enough to compete with Clemson, but they just didn't have the difference makers.
No, they had a screen poppers. Shirt coming soon, by the way.
He basically said, you're a big-time program and a legit championship team when you get 2 to 4 more screen poppers per recruiting class than everybody else.
Oh, okay. That's the magic number, 2 to 3 more.
He said, forget all the rankings. He
Yeah.
said, the people that can identify the screen poppers immediately and get 2 to 3 more than everybody else every recruiting cycle, those are the ones. Because remember, when Clemson did make their run, their recruiting rankings were like 10, 11, 13. They weren't top 5.
They were kind of lackluster.
But they were getting screen poppers, though. So that's the difference. You get the screen poppers, you can try to close the gap. You might not get the quantity as far as 5
stars. You get a guy like Hunter Renfrow.
Hey, he ended up being a screen popper. You know what I mean? Like, who knew? And he's putting in work in the pros too.
Cooper Kupp style.
Man, putting in work. So we gave the 3 things that Marcus Freeman needs to do and identify this spring on yesterday. And he spoke very highly of the staff that Marcus Freeman has put together. And he said the first key that lets you know Marcus Freeman's mentality of what he wanted to do and what he would be as a head coach is that immediately when he got to Notre Dame, his first words were, we're going to recruit the best defensive players in the country.
Yeah.
As if that wasn't being done at Notre Dame.
He knows because he was been there for a year. You know, you gotta really listen in to what Marcus Freeman is saying because he's been there.
Yeah.
You know, he ain't just come like Ohio State's new defensive coordinator, come from Oklahoma State into a new environment. He's got a chance to sit in those meetings, sit it around the area, sit in the program, sit in those recruiting meetings, and see what's going on. So when he goes up there and starts addressing stuff first day, that's probably something he's been thinking about for a minute.
Yeah.
He was probably looking at his linebacker room like,
yo, shout out to
the best in the country.
Shout out to LL Nation having my back. Jim Knowles did not coach in the Fiesta Bowl. I made that mistake. His last game was actually the Big 12 championship game. He made great adjustments defensively in that game as well because Baylor was on a roll.
Yeah.
First half. He made adjustments to get them back in that game. By that time, Fiesta Bowl, he had left to go on to Ohio State. Steve was, man, Steve really doesn't smile a lot.
No.
Poker face. But he started talking about the Ohio State offense.
Oh, I know he was glowing. He was glowing.
He was like, yo, they might have the number 1 running back in a couple of years on the draft board. They might have QB1 next year. They definitely had the top 2 wide receivers on the draft board next year. And he's talking, and I'm saying to myself, I had to encourage myself to say, I'm still going to talk that ish.
Yeah.
Like Steve was trying to get me off
to a guy in Columbus that you got to talk to anyway because we're going to beat it. So it's just another guy in Columbus we're talking to.
Steve is trying to get me to back off right now, but I refuse to back off. I'm still going to the bus, and I'm still talking that thing. I don't care. I hear what you're saying, Steve, about that offense.
It's obvious. They got him. We see him. They put up 50 points on just throwing a rock around. One guy had 300 yards. He's going to be a Bolitnikov guy. We got it.
Yeah.
But we got some guys too.
They have mouths too. You know what that means? If they have a mouth, they can get punched in it. You know what I mean? Last I checked, they had this little slit at the bottom of their face, and we can punch them right in it and see what they got.
And as long as they got belly buttons, that means they human too. They just like us. If they got belly buttons, we all the same. Here we go.
Facts. So for the Culture Friday, the link is in the chat. The link is in the chat. Get at us.
The link is in the chat.
The link is in the chat. Get at us. Any question that you have. It's Friday. It's for the culture. Let us know. We'll try and answer it. Bro, I woke up this morning. I got excited because I saw the butcher was coming. And I said, oh, I got something to listen to today. I like that. Benny the
Dirk's out today.
Dirk's out today. Benny the Butcher. It's a great day for your musical pleasure. Great day.
Something to listen to on that flight over here, man.
Yeah. Absolutely. Colin Park. Breaking news while we were doing the podcast. What about Deshaun Watson? That is huge. Colin, once again, we spin it different. I've been telling you all that this was coming. Like the league knew. Nah, it's nothing serious with this case. People told us at the combine. Someone called me from the combine and said, yo, the deal's going to go down after the combine.
What's the deal?
What's going to happen? Seahawks, Steelers, it's like 3 teams talking to the Texans right now.
Oh, I don't like Deshaun at the Seattle.
I don't like him in Seattle either.
I just don't think unless they go.
Would you like him in Tampa?
I would.
Now, I would like him in New Orleans. I would like him in New Orleans if Sean Payton didn't leave.
Yeah, but right now, all them teams don't seem like great options. What's the best offensive option out of that group?
Oh, it's the Steelers. If you're talking about a wide receiver core and a running back,
it'll be the Steelers. But do you think they would? The Steelers would be the best. The Steelers would be the best place to recover all conflicted black athletes in the NFL. They all go to Pittsburgh.
Let's be honest, because I know you have bias. You have a little bias. And once again, we put the link to the studio in the chat. If you want to jump in, chop it up with us, hit that link. We'll get you in. With bias, I need you to be unbiased because I know you have a little bias when about what I'm about to say. If Deshaun Watson indeed signs with the Steelers, he becomes the best quarterback in that division. It's debatable. The only other person you could say is Joe. That's it.
We haven't seen him in a year though.
How far off do you think he's going?
And I think Deshaun, before he left, top 3 quarterback in the league. I definitely think
he was on something.
That'd be a better. In my opinion, that's a tougher division of quarterbacks than the Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Derek Carr, Russell Wilson one. I like the Baker, Lamar, Joe, and potentially Deshaun.
That's a heck of a division.
That's a better division than the Pat, Herbert, Derek. Yeah, that'd be.
You might be right. That's a heck of a division. You can leave Baker out though. Yeah,
well, you can throw Carr out. You can throw Carr out if you throw Baker out, and
that's cool.
That's cool.
That's like taking the deuces out the deck for spades. That's all good with me. that's all we did. We took the deuces out the deck.
Yeah, that's all. That's all we got. That's all we got. But I do think that's gonna be, man. Football's getting tough, man. That quarterback position getting hectic.
It's a beautiful thing, though. It's a beautiful thing. Steve
now
was
somebody
smiling
got
when he was talking about, Steve started to like crack a smile when he started talking about Notre Dame and Dante Moore too.
Oh, I know. He knows something.
He started to crack a smile. I was like, all right, Steve, what you trying to say, brother?
Hey, Dante Moore.
He threw Gazina in on the back end. You know what I mean? Like, let me
just to make sure people do. Yeah, just in case. But snagging a guy like Dante Moore, you talk about securing a class for the next couple years.
Yeah.
The top 5, because the impact's going to trickle down. You know.
We keep saying this. Retention is going to be the key.
Mm-hmm.
Retention. Because you've gotten off to a great start. You have to retain these guys. You have to retain a Peyton Bourne. You have to retain a Keon Keeley. You have to retain, the number 1 class. And then start adding to it, especially from an offensive standpoint. You have to add to the class. And, I don't know if you saw, it was an Alabama fan, LL Nation. Some of you guys, some of you people reply. Appreciate you guys jumping in. He says, someone just sent me a YouTube or some media guy saying that Notre Dame, he thinks Notre Dame's going to have the number 1 recruiting class in December. And he was like, what do you all think? Talking to the Alabama fan base. And then at the end, he said, by the way, it was, and then he put in my Twitter handle. So when I woke up, I saw it and I retweeted it. And I'm like, you act like I'm about to run.
Yeah, no, I'm right here.
Like, I said what I said. Like, what's to it?
What's to it? Who got a problem with it?
I didn't get no comments back.
They got to look at the research and saw.
LL Nation jumped in, though.
That's
LL Nation jumped in like, yo, that's right. He said it, and I did. And I stand on it. Yo, we got Gene. Gene, what's good, man? How you feeling?
What's cracking, y'all? What's cracking? How y'all out there?
What's good, Gene?
Just so you know, I started making my plans for Hawaii, bro.
That's what it is. That's what I like to hear, baby. That's what I like to hear. That's what's up, yo. Hey, you gonna be out there hula hips and everything, man.
That's all, man. Well, I got the motivation from you. I talked to the missus like, hey, we going.
Hey,
we going.
Let's go.
Hey, it's gonna be a lot easier to get out there too. You ain't got to go through all the mandates and everything too. So you'll be straight once you get out there. So yeah, you'll be good.
Yo, straight so up. What's on your mind this Friday?
Well, first of all, Malik, that froze, man. Whew, boy, that boy nice. Man. I'll tell you what, man.
Right.
Do y'all think that Deshaun might be? I know that he got acquitted or whatever. Y'all think he might be a liability though?
Wherever he goes, there will be pushback because of the situation at first. But sports fans, eventually, once he gets on the field and he starts to perform.
Now we said that about Kaepernick too now. And my man's still out there working and still can't get nothing.
Well, Kaepernick was
a little bit different. Yeah, that was a little bit different.
Deshaun, I think he's still a good guy. I don't think anybody is looking at Deshaun and thinking his character issues are gonna hold him back from helping the team win football games. If anything, they're looking more of a personal issue. They're like, man, you gotta just take care of your off the field a little bit better. But from a football perspective, teams are not worried. They're probably just anxious to be able to get into that room with him. But I just hope he gets into a good situation. I just think some of the teams that are on the list, they're not going to do him the justice. He'll be in another situation where he has to do everything and not be protected. And he's getting older,
That's true. That's true. And if he goes to the Seahawks, I'm like,
Yeah, I hope the people around him are better advisors than they are, recommenders for massages. I hope they do a better job at advising them than giving them recommendations.
Man, something's got to give, man. Something's got to give.
I'm surprised you don't have just a personal one, like on call, like the one that always comes to. Like,
don't they have multiple? Don't they have multiple staff members that do that for the team? Like maybe that's like his icebreaker. But no, at the time, I'm trying to be serious, man. I'm trying to be serious. But no, at the time he had a girlfriend, and I remember, and like, man, look, yo,
just put him under the cap, huh?
Yeah, man.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Just don't go to Seattle, man. Just don't go to Seattle.
Yeah, and I don't want to give congratulations to him for not being criminally charged because something has taken place.
Yeah.
Whereas 21 women feel like they've been taken advantage of. So it's not a matter of congratulations, but there is an NFL team that is going to get a very, very good quarterback and change their fortunes. So
True that.
What's
That's
it like out there? What's the weather like?
For us, it's it's 70 right now, but it's supposed to get up to like 82 tomorrow.
Ooh, that's what I like to hear, boy. I can't wait.
Like 82 tomorrow.
I can't wait to get out west.
84 on Sunday. We got this thing tomorrow that I'm doing with the wife and everything. It's called the Aloha Festival in Arizona. So it's everybody that's Hawaiian, Polynesian, and everything else. We're gonna be out in Tempe. It's gonna be like a ginormous luau. So we're gonna be out there the whole weekend.
Oh,
so
wow, yeah.
I know, like, it's a lot of snow bunnies that come out there.
Snowbirds.
Snow bunnies and snowbirds.
I
know what I'm saying. I know what I'm saying.
Yes, I got you.
Bro, I'm about to be like, you mean snowbirds.
No, I know what I'm saying. I was about to go the spring break route.
Okay.
Arizona is a destination for spring break right about now.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
I was going to make the transition from snow bunnies to now that baseball is back in.
Yes.
Spring training starts next week, so you'll get the snow bunnies and snowbirds.
Yes.
Going into
right.
Arizona.
So,
Let me be the point guard, bro. I told you I'm a point guard. Let me be the point guard.
I got you. Yeah. Even while they was even while they was announcing it, where I work at in Tempe, it's right on a flight path for Phoenix.
Yeah.
You should have seen private jet. They just all started just coming in all of a sudden out of nowhere.
That waste management tournament is coming up too.
No, that was a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And yeah, it was nuts. That was nuts. I thought I was gonna see Malik. I thought I was gonna see Malik on one of them PJs. I thought,
he's trying to become the next Franklin Saint.
Yeah. You seen that? Yeah, I had to get just.
He's like, yeah, you know what it is. You know what it is. I was like,
that's where it was shot. That was the airport it was shot at. That was the first episode. That was the same hangar, same plane.
Oh, that's sweet.
Crazy.
Shout out to our day one David Flores for tapping in. He said, "Come to Idaho if you want to see the snow bunnies."
The real ones.
That's hilarious. Oh man! So when you come, you said next week, Shaun?
I land in LA Monday at 9:00.
That's what's up.
And we already have a date in the OC. You know, with Rex Pfluger.
Okay, that's dope.
Meet up with him. So check the Instagram page. We definitely gonna be on that.
All right.
Malik already said the place. When I was
Silky Sullivans, we go Melikins, Malarkeys. We got the places.
See? Oh shoot.
See?
I know what I wanted to tell you. When y'all do get to the blue and gold game, Shaun, I don't know how you gonna do it. I don't know whoever needed. I need somebody with a camera to get you to take your first bite of that Frankie's, and I want to see an instant reaction
of the Frankie's. Okay.
Of that Frankie's, because you got to order it correct now.
Okay.
And I'm gonna DM it to you when you get it, and Malik know too. Okay.
Yeah, you're
gonna get you a tip dinner.
Tip dinner.
Sauce,
okay.
Sauce in the fries, bread on top.
On top.
Gotcha.
Very important.
That is important that you do it just like that, okay?
Gotcha.
I need somebody with a camera and some video that as soon as you bite into that tip and that sauce hit you like right here, it's gonna hit you right there.
And
I'm
you
telling
doing one of these?
Yeah. I'm gonna need to see that. I'm gonna need to see that.
So our girl D Beezy said, need that Frankie's. And then Chris Basker, love me some rib tips from Frankie's. Hey, that's gonna be my first stop, bro.
I'm telling you.
Wait, I'm there. I get back to Chicago and I'm there for the pro day, like 3 days later. So I'm definitely.
Well, you might have to eat it after the pro day because you might fall asleep if you get it before. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're gonna get the itis real easy, yo.
You'll be like, dang, I can't even make it to the pro day.
I mean,
you got the itis.
Looking at the combine performances, I might fall asleep anyway. You know what I mean?
Hey, and don't sleep on them chicken tenders at Frankie's too. Don't sleep on them either.
Really
see, that's different. I always got the rib tip. It was hard to get past that.
This is true. Very true.
Well, Gene, thank you for joining us today, man. Have a great weekend. And eventually we'll bring Onora out to Arizona.
We out here, baby. We out here. Hey, I got the spot. I got the spot.
Okay.
All you gotta do is
coming right to you. We coming right to you.
All you gotta do is say the word, I have the spot. I promise you.
Okay.
It's locked.
All right, boy. Have a good one.
Peace, y'all.
Yo, Gene leaves the line open. We just put the link in the chat one more time. DBs, he said they open at 11 a.m.
Right at lunch. They know people getting on that lunch break. Come on by.
So we had Dex mention Frankie's. I think Brandon mentioned. Did Brandon mention Frankie's? Frankie's has to be the spot, bro. It has to be. It has to be the spot.
I gotta put you on, man. It's one of those you'll miss it because it's such a hole in the wall, but it's one of those, you know, you from South Bend if you can talk about Frankie's.
All right, man. You know I'm gonna stack it up against some spots in the shop.
Oh man, listen. You talk about South Bend ain't as big as Chicago. You can't even try to make that comparison.
See, DBZ says for the culture. You know what time it is.
Yeah, that's right.
Petticoat, petticoat, petticoat junction.
It's time to get petty.
Oh, we did a good job executing. Are you upset with something?
And fire up the Petticoat Junction train.
I just don't like you. You don't? No.
What is today's petty history? Petty Junction.
That's right, Petty Junction each and every day. Petty story of the day. Yo, so not only did the Seattle Seahawks, my brother, trade Russell Wilson, they also released all-pro linebacker Bobby Wagner.
That's
who was the rock. You talk about the Legion of Boom on the back end. He was the rock in the middle of that defense.
He was the Ray Lewis of that team.
He literally was the counter defensively to Russell Wilson.
Literally.
He was the quarterback. Today he tweeted out, you know what's crazy? After 10 years of giving everything to this team and organization, they didn't even have the balls to tell me I was Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks, you got to go on the Petty train, fam.
Oh yeah, he's going in the Hall of Fame. He's going into the Hall of Fame and to the Seahawks Hall of Fame, Ring of Honor, whatever y'all got up there. He's going to be there. You didn't even.
You can't FaceTime this man. You don't have to call him into the facility. You don't have to call him into the facility.
No respect for him.
You couldn't FaceTime this man to let
at least Richard.
And it's not like it's like Pete Carroll's there, bro. I don't care what has changed in the front office. Pete Carroll's there.
And he's responsible for that. Pete Carroll been there long enough that had too many encounters to not say nothing.
Man, look here, man. Look here. When I saw that, I was appalled.
Yeah.
I was appalled.
That's not right.
Let me be personal for a second. Go ahead, because it looked like you're about to say something to it.
I was going to say the league don't love you, man. And these teams and the fans that hold these players so accountable to staying there through hell or high water. This is an example why you can't do that. This is the staple. Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner were the staple of that team for a whole decade. And the way they did Bobby, you know, they was talking about releasing Russell earlier, but the way they did Bobby cold-hearted like that, that's tough for it to be a guy that they're going to celebrate in the Ring of Honor at their team.
Mm-hmm. So just to update, this has been established or tweeted out by Phil Yates. Deshaun Watson's contract for the team that acquires him, it's a bargain, bro. 2022, $35 million salary, $35 million cap hit. 2023, $20 million salary, $17 million cap hit, with a roster bonus of $17 million. 2024, $32 million salary, $32 million cap hit, and the same thing in 2025. You just saw Aaron Rodgers get 5-0.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Big ones.
5-0 annually. So if you're able to get 32, heck, Dak is at right about 30, right?
But he might get his restructured.
Dude, he needs to get it rescinded. Forget restructuring. I'm a Cowboys fan. They need to rescind that contract.
See, why you got – oh, my God.
Dude, they should have never gave – dude. They
That's
let their emotions. They let their emotions get the best of them.
Emotions? That's the market.
Yeah.
The market said pay him that much.
Let me tell you why they let their emotions get the best of them.
Emotions?
Because the injury.
Oh, my gosh.
They got the injury. They felt bad.
So now they feeling bad. So you signing guys $50 million contracts?
What? Say it again.
All that money because you feel bad? No.
No, I said they let their emotions get the best of them.
Not when it comes to
in a heartbeat. He can go to Houston right now. I don't need to see Deshaun take a snap. I don't need to see anything. We can make that trade right now.
He'll go down the street. They just trade down the street.
Duh, I heard the day spas are better in Dallas anyway. That's all I'm saying. Let me stop, man. Let me stop.
He just got to quit it, man. He just got to quit it. Don't get the case reopened or something.
Let me be personal for a second, man. Brad Underwood and the Illinois Fighting Illini for losing in the quarterfinals of the Big Ten tournament to that trash Indiana team, all of y'all. we taking a charter plane back to Champaign. No. Y'all, come off that charter. Come get y'all tails on this petty train. That's the only way you get back to Champaign. That's the only way you get back to Champaign for that embarrassing loss at the hands of the Indiana Hoosiers, who are horrible. Number one seed.
Yeah, they are horrible.
And you lose horrible.
Horrible.
Yo.
So how far you got them going in the tournament?
Second round. I'm a realistic fan, bro.
Is it not?
I'll be shocked. Hey,
come on, because of one game.
They just lost to an 8 seed as a number 1 seed in the tournament, in the Big Ten tournament. They already lost to a number 8 seed. What do you think they're going to do when they face the 5 seed?
But second round?
Second round. They lost in the second round last year as a number 1 seed.
You can't say history going to repeat itself like that.
Yo, the roster is worse and the coach is still average.
You can't be average on back-to-back 1 seeds.
No. They're going to be a 4 seed this year.
Oh yeah,
They're on the 4 seed line. So
losing like that.
They're going to play a 5 seed in the second round, which is going to
Winnable
be a tough game, and they're going to lose. They're going to lose. This is Illinois basketball.
Oh goodness.
Notre Dame fans think they have it bad. Try being an Illinois basketball fan. Just try. Try graduating from the state school that can't keep the best players in the state home for basketball. When they got Chicago an hour and a half away as your base for recruiting, and you can't even get the kids from Chicago to come down an hour and a half and play for you. They're lucky they got Ayo. They're lucky they got Ayo.
Well, Loyola been doing better than that, right?
Absolutely. And I don't want to say how they got Ayo.
You know what is duffel bags?
I don't want to go into that. You know what I mean?
Because you got to be on the petty train for dry snitching.
Dude, there was a drop-off spot. Somebody showed up with a couple of duffels.
Yeah. And then there was a nice handshake, couple of nods.
And the program was resurrected. Just like that. The program was resurrected. My only problem is he's on the Chicago Bulls now. What's we gonna do now?
Yeah.
What's we gonna do now?
You better start fundraising. Get them fundraisers going.
Hey man, look, it's been a fantastic week. Everybody, go back, check out the archive shows on our YouTube channel. Special announcement today. We are going to officially be changing the name of the YouTube channel tomorrow morning. It will no longer be the Lucky Lefty podcast. Tomorrow, we will become Lucky Lefty Network. And what that means is we have multiple shows in development.
Uh-oh.
Give you more content to talk NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL, all of that. And of course, what I'm sure most of you love the most, sports betting. You can get your Calvin Ridley on, dude. We don't care.
Yeah. And I don't have a problem. Just 1,500. Just 1,500.
If you don't want the significant other to know, we'll show you how to change your name and put it in a different name. If he had us next to him, he wouldn't have been in trouble. He
wouldn't be Calvin. Was it Calvin really 18 on the username?
We definitely would have had his back. Like, bro, hold on, what you doing?
Yeah, you gotta change the name up, man.
The
alias.
Yes. Yes, right? Let me tell you something. A little story. It's one of the things I feel really bad about, right? I think I shared this story with you before. When I look at the Deshaun Watson story, I go back to my days at the University of Illinois. And so I was there. I grew up with childhood friends with Simeon Rice.
Mm.
I used to kill Simeon Rice when we played Nerf football in the street, bro. Because, Sim was always bigger than everybody, but Sim was uncoordinated.
Yeah.
Right? So, dude, I was catching bombs on Sim, just consistently. Killing it, right? But somehow, some way, the legendary Frank Lenti saw him at a camp his 7th grade year and got him to come to Mount Carmel. By the time I saw Sim his sophomore year in high school, I was like, the hell did they do to you?
He was turned up.
Yo, he was totally transformed. So we fast forward to U of I. He's staying in this big crib, right? It's him, Dennis Stallings, and a couple other guys. I don't want to be putting names out there. A couple other guys. So every Friday night, I had a car. He didn't have a car. I had a car as a freshman. So I was the guy that they would send to make the pickups on Friday night to bring back to the crib.
He was a duffel bag.
right? Like, man, go to the 6-pack. It's gonna be 3 girls waiting for you. You know, bring them back to the crib. Now, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world back then. But the older I got, I look back on it, I'm like, I can't believe I was the Wrangler, dog. Like
the
man,
shepherd.
Yeah, go get these.
Shaun the shepherd. Go herd them in.
Right. Go get this. Now go over here and get this. Bro, now they back then, you know, gas was only, you know, I'm about to age myself. Back then, gas was literally like $1 a gallon.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it was $1 a gallon back then, dude. So, but they gave me gas money, you know, and I caught some leftovers.
Accommodated.
I caught leftovers from being at the crib. You know what I'm saying? So it turned out to be pretty good, but it was just like
it's a win-win. It's a win-win.
Yeah, sometimes, you know, my daughter's in college and I'm like, I'll probably break a dude's neck, man. But I can't hate. You know what I mean? Because I was part of the process.
Yeah, you was a Wrangler. You was a shepherd. Said, hey, what you doing? Yeah,
right.
It was you.
Yo, so always be thoughtful of how things can play out different if the tables are turned when you're making decisions in life.
That's right.
Lucky Lefty Podcast, like I said, we are now Lucky Lefty Network. We got great content coming. A couple of shows that will probably be launched in a couple of weeks. And it's dope. And the only reason we can do it is because you guys believed in us. You give us your time. You give us your attention. And we appreciate you. And we want to continue to give back. And we're going to chop it up. And we're going to keep trying to expand the brand and give you more content. Heck, if I can get some wrestling in here, I'll get a wrestling podcast in here. I don't talk about it because, you know, I go back to like the Von Erichs and Hulk Hogan. So I haven't watched wrestling in like 10 years, bro.
That's spinning it all the way.
Yeah. So we got to get it done. Who said ketchup on potato chips? What? Come on, man.
You got to do better.
Oh, Michael Campbell. I appreciate you, my brother. We definitely got to put James Harden on the petty train. Yes, we do. For that performance last night. And for the little huddle that Kyrie, KD, and Ben Simmons, B-E-E-N. Not B-E-N. B-E-E-N as in past tense. Simmons. The little laugh and chuckle huddle they had on the sidelines, they need to go on the petty train for that too.
That's right.
That's a good call.
But that's going to be a great series, though, in the playoffs, if we get to see that.
Hey, man, did you ever think that James Harden is like on the tape? Seems like every big game, dude, this dude has an unimaginable, terrible game. It's one thing to be like 10 for 25, 9 for 25. This dude at the worst time is like 3 for 15.
It wasn't giving him the calls they usually give him. So, you know, he going to be mentally taken out by that because that's 8 shots right there.
I guess so, man.
And then if them threes ain't falling early, it's just like, you know, what's his game? A bunch of step backs and fouling at the lane. But Embiid didn't have a great game either, though. So
no. Embiid has to stop being. He has to recognize who he is, man.
Yeah.
Especially against a statement game like that. Man,
he think he's LeBron.
Get your big tail down on that box, dude. I'm talking about from the first possession. Bang them.
But that's why Giannis is so good because he know who he is.
Oh,
Giannis running to the basket.
He's not trying to be anything different.
He's like, why would I shoot?
Oh, that's it.
He's running football to the basket every time.
I'm trying to get to the rack. I'm a Euro spin, whatever I have to do.
And I'm gonna be 20 of 21.
Man,
I'm hitting over, just putting it in the cup. Just putting it in the cup. Ain't doing nothing hard.
Luis Rescalvo, before we get out of here. What's good, Lucky Lefty? I just missed your show with Dex Williams. I've already last game of the season at USC, he gave my son his football gloves to him. Oh, that's what's up. Shout out to Dex.
Shout out to Juice, man.
Yeah, we'll definitely let him know. All right, bro.
All right.
That's it, man. We'll see you
Thanks,
guys Monday. Don't forget, time goes up this weekend. Daylight saving time. I'm happy about that because we get longer days now, especially since I'm going to be on the West Coast next week.
Hey, it's going to be a good time, man. Can't wait till you get out of here.
Yo, so we'll let you know what we're going to do next week. We might end up just doing a joint show on a couch somewhere.
That's right.
That's real
talking that real Lucky Left.
No doubt. Had the Onora on the table in front of us.
Half hope.
Half hope. Of our boy Malik, Zaire, I'm Shaun Davis, man. Check us out Monday. Don't forget, hit the smash that like button. We appreciate you. As always, spin it.